it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Louie T Network exclusive free agency frenzy. We're going to be talking free agency all week long. We've had franchise tags handed out today. We've had trades be commenced. We'll talk about those a little bit later on. One in particular right now, though, that kind of blows everything else out of the water. We've seen moves already made in free agency, although the actual new league year has not started yet. We're in the tampering period, so guys are making decisions. We'll talk about those as well, but we just right now want to focus on one trade in particular, one that blew me away. And you know what's crazy? Let me start you off with this background information. This morning, I read a tweet, and I don't remember where it was from, who it was from, but I read a tweet this morning that said, the Houston Texans are thinking about moving DeAndre Hopkins because they need more draft capital. And I'm thinking to myself, nah, that sounds, it's Lion season, whatever. They're not moving Nuke. Really? Stop, man. I mean, him and Deshaun Watson are arguably the best 1-2 combo in all of football. He's arguably the best wide receiver in the game. I don't see them moving him. And all the things that they've went through to try to build that team into a winner right now, you're going to move the guy that helps you potentially win. Now, I will say this, and there has been a lot of chatter about this over the last 5 to 7 years with, disgruntled receivers like Antonio Brown and the likes, and Odell Beckham Jr., that you don't win with receivers in this league. Receivers don't win you anything. And if you look at the prominent receivers in this league, they don't win Super Bowls. Now, some of that has to do with who's at quarterback. Some of that has to do with other circumstances surrounding those teams. Julio Jones was the last real number one true top 5 NFL receiver to have a legitimate shot to win a Super Bowl. Should have won it back in 2016. But outside of that, I mean, who's winning Super Bowls that's an elite wide receiver? Not many guys on that list in the last, decade to, 2 decades, if you take it back even a step further than that. So it's not like it was back in the day when you had Jerry Rice as the premier receiver in the league or Michael Irvin and those guys won. It's a new day in the NFL, and these prima donna wide receivers don't win a ton. But that being said, this is a guy right now that is the, to me, best possession receiver in the game. And then he can still run. We kind of discount his ability to take the top off the defense because he's not a burner. But if you blink, he'll run by you. And oh, by the way, if you just throw it up there, he usually comes down with it anyway. He's got the best set of hands in the league, if you ask me. Him and Larry Fitzgerald are right there in terms of hands 1A, 1B. But there aren't many balls that get by this guy. And to me, he helps your offense in so many ways. Even when he doesn't touch it, they've got 2 guys on him just about at all times. And if they don't, that means it's one-on-one. And if it is, that means you're about to get the biz. So it's amazing to think that Bill O'Brien, and I've said this numerous times, Bill O'Brien has no business being anybody's general manager. Hell, I'm not even sure he belongs being anybody's head coach. That's another discussion for another day. You know how I feel about Bill O'Brien. However, this one takes the cake because, and the report out there is, and there's going to be more to this story, all right? Anytime you get out in front of something, or anytime you're reporting about something, or you're giving an opinion about something that happens, and you're out there as soon as it happens, more is going to come out to the story. There are going to be more layers to this. But what I'm hearing is that he wanted new money with 3 years left on his deal. And I don't know how true it is. I don't know what he was asking for. But it seems like anytime a player asks Bill O'Brien for some money, there's a problem. All right, Jadeveon Clowney asked for his money. When his contract was up, he got traded. Nuke apparently asked for some money with 3 years left on his deal. He got traded. If I'm anybody in that Texas organization and I want out, just go to Bill O'Brien and ask for money and he'll trade you. So it's amazing. This feels like any given Sunday. And I feel like Bill O'Brien is Al Pacino, or the fans of the Texans are Al Pacino, and Bill O'Brien is Jamie Foxx. And the Texans fans are like, you're tearing this team apart. And he is systematically tearing this team apart. Whether it's draft picks, and this is the thing. If you're going to make the moves he made last year to get Laramie Tunsil and to get Kenny Stills and trade away all that draft capital like you did, if you're going to do that, all right, then you can't go chasing those picks back and make a move like this that undercuts everything that you've been building towards. Now, I get it. This is a deep wide receiver group. All right. And so if you get another second rounder, which they just acquired another second round pick, and then a rather early one at that, because the Cardinals, have an early top 10 of the second round. I think it's 40th overall, if I'm not mistaken, is where the Arizona Cardinals are. 40th, 41, somewhere in there. If you're going to chase down those picks, you can't undercut the things that you've been building. And that's sort of what you did here, because everything the Texans have done with Bill O'Brien over the last 2 or 3 years has been building to win now. And if you're going to go in the draft and get a young guy, he may be able to help you, but he's not going to be able to help you like DeAndre Hopkins can right now. Now, this may be a move for the future. And he may have wanted more money. And you may have looked at him and said, bro, we don't have any more money to give you. You got 3 years left on your deal. Please get out of my face right now. And he's like, I want my money and I want it now. And they said, all right, tell you what, we'll have a conversation. We'll get in touch with your agent. Just pipe down. And they said, all right, man. All right, let's get his ass the hell out of here. So, at the end of the day, we sit here and we kill Bill O'Brien, and I'm always at the front of it with my torch in hand and pitchfork in the other, ready to get his ass the hell out of there. But he continues to win the division or make the playoffs every single year. So as long as he continues to tread water, he'll be fine. But at some point, all of this chicanery that he's been participating in, this tomfoolery, it's going to catch up to him. I've said the same thing about the Rams. At some point, all of these first round and all of these second round picks that they're trading away, it's going to catch up to you eventually. All right. When the wins stop and the playoff appearances stop, that's when everyone starts coming for your neck. And I don't know if there's going to be that long of a leash for Bill O'Brien. He may have 1 year where they decide to go 7-9, 8-8, miss the postseason, and everybody's coming for his ass because of moves like this one. Now, let me just say this, all jokes aside. When you look at the deal, all right, so let me lay the deal out because I don't think I did that. It was just so mind-boggling and it blew my mind and I think I just jumped straight in. But let's rewind a bit and talk about the deal. It is flashing across the top of the screen, but I'll give it to you verbally for those of you who aren't actually watching but just listening. So the Texans sent DeAndre Hopkins and a 2020 fourth round pick to the Arizona Cardinals in exchange for David Johnson, the running back from the Arizona Cardinals, a 2020 second round pick, and a 2021 fourth round selection. So the Texans gained a little bit of draft capital this year and next, and they picked up a quality running back. And when I said all jokes aside, let's not act as if David Johnson is some bum that they just threw in a trade. This isn't the last time they made a trade where Jadeveon Clowney was traded and they got back the pass rusher from the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm like, Jacob Martin, and I'm like, who? Jacob who? And he's actually not half bad, but you're like, yo, you just gave away Jadeveon Clowney for Jacob Martin. Seriously? That's what we're doing right now? All right. This isn't that. All right. David Johnson, just 2 years ago, was a fantasy football darling. You couldn't draft him number one fast enough in a fantasy football league. You know what was so funny? I was on a live stream a couple nights ago, and we were talking about the running back position in the draft, and my man BE calls in. And BE's talking about, if we trade. He used to be all over David Johnson's knob, okay? Slobbing on that man's knob. And all of a sudden now, he can't wait to get rid of him fast enough. He just dismissed him I literally was going to call him out on it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to let him live. But he was like, if we trade DJ. I remember when this guy used to be DJ this and DJ that. He's going to break this record. He's going to break that record. And it's amazing how quick of a 180 everyone's done on David Johnson, as if this man just forgot how to play football or something. David Johnson is still a quality NFL running back. And if he's put in a right system, because that system in Arizona does not fit him anymore. All right. So if he's put in a system to succeed, which I think he will in Houston, I think he could be a really good football player once again. And it won't make this trade equal. Okay. Let me reiterate this. You know what this trade feels like to me? And this is from the outside looking in. And I don't know if it's going to end up being this way, but this is what it feels like. Me being a Washington Redskins fan, I saw a trade very similar to this one once upon a time. It involved a high-profile running back and a star cornerback. All right, not too dissimilar from this. Insert star wide receiver, take out star cornerback. All right, and you essentially have the same trade. Now, there's a couple more picks involved, but at the end of the day, you get the gist of where I'm going with this. The Redskins traded Champ Bailey and a second-round pick. You know, that's the part of that deal that still drives me nuts to this day, is that the Redskins thought that Champ Bailey by himself wasn't enough. So they had to throw in a second-rounder as well to get Clinton Portis from the Denver Broncos. And I'm like, it should have been the other way around. They should have been giving us the second-round pick because Champ Bailey was way better and way worth more than Champ Bailey. I feel the same way about this deal. And so you look at the situation, and Champ Bailey turned out to be a Hall of Fame cornerback. We knew he was going to be that kind of player if he stayed relatively healthy, because he had shown us that in his early portion of his career in Washington, and he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. He went to Denver, blew up, tore the league to shreds, and ended up being a Pro Football Hall of Famer down the road. And we got a really quality NFL running back in Clinton Portis for some of his prime years of his career. And he was good in Washington, and I enjoyed watching him, but it wasn't an even trade. When you look back at that trade, the Denver Broncos won that trade, and it's not even close. And I feel like that's a similar situation what we're getting here, is that you're trading away a future Hall of Fame player in DeAndre Hopkins. If his career continues to trend in the direction that it's going, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. And what you're getting in return is a quality running back in the NFL that could help you for the next 3-4 years and be really productive for you. But it's not the same thing. And the fact that you felt the need to throw in a 2020 fourth-round selection, you shouldn't have been giving up any draft capital with this deal. But obviously, in order to make it work, and they said, look, we need some kind of draft compensation as well, you had to throw something in there. I wasn't giving them shit else. If I'm giving away Nuke, you're not getting another damn thing from me unless it's a star for a star. And David Johnson, sorry to tell you this, Houston Texans, he is no longer a star in this league. He is a former star. Now, he may be able to regain that title because he can still play football. He can still catch. He can still run. Last time I checked, all of those things are there. All right. And this whole narrative about him being injury prone. Look, you take out 2017 when he missed all but one game of the season and that wasn't a leg injury. That was an arm injury. So, outside of that, he's only missed 3 games in his career. Okay. This is a guy that usually plays 16 games. So excuse me if I don't buy the low-hanging fruit narrative of, oh, he's injury prone. I don't buy that for 1 second. Bottom line is, this is a quality NFL running back, but you just gave away elite wide receiver production. It's not an even trade. We'll see what happens. This is what happens when you put yourself in a position to be desperate enough to do things that don't make sense. All right? I don't know if the influence of him potentially going to management and saying, I want a new money on my deal with 3 years left. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. But you know what also had something to do with? They want more draft capital. When you don't have a first-round pick again, you start looking around and saying, what can we do to maximize our situation? And they looked around and they said, look, man, it's cool to have a second and a third, which they do. Couple of fourths, that's great. But it still doesn't take away from the sting of having that extra year of a guy on a rookie contract as a first-round pick. And it doesn't take away from the sting of not being able to get your hands on an elite prospect. Now, again, when you're playing the kind of ball the Texans have been playing and you're getting a back end of the first-round pick, it doesn't sting as much. However, a first-rounder is a first-rounder is a first-rounder. I don't give a damn if you're picking 32nd or you're picking second. A first-rounder is a first-rounder is a first-rounder, and the Texans seem to never have any first rounders. So their way of making up for it is to get 22 twos. And so they got another two in this year's draft. And they're going to go to battle with 2 twos. And maybe they see a guy that they really want and they can trade those 2 twos for a 1. I don't know what the logic is. At this point, nothing's out of bounds with Bill O'Brien because this guy will do anything that he thinks will help this team win, even if it is very short-sighted and ultimately hurts their team in the long run. So this trade is crazy. If you're looking at it from the Arizona Cardinals standpoint, this is a great move for them. And you know what it also does is it takes the need of wide receiver off the board for them right away. Like, there was a debate at number 10 for the Cardinals. Do we take, a wide receiver? Do we take an offensive lineman? Do we trade for Trent Williams? They were probably exploring and mulling over a bunch of different options. At this point now, to me, it's a no-brainer. You take the offensive lineman. You've got the wide receiver you need. You've already put a transition tag on Kenyon Drake. He's probably not going anywhere now. And so now everything is kind of set up for this team to take a monumental leap. If they hit on that first-round pick and that guy comes in, hits the ground running, DJ Humphrey stays healthy, all of a sudden the offensive line is much better. You've got wide receivers all over the place, including a bunch of young guys that are still developing. Now you add in another veteran to go with Larry Fitzgerald to school these young guys like Christian Kirk and all the other guys you got out there at receiver. This is going to be a fun team to watch with Kyler Murray behind center. And all of a sudden, you just got one of the most dynamic and explosive wide receivers in this league, a chain mover and a guy that makes big plays because he catches everything that comes his way. And so if you can find a way to make this Cardinals defense a little bit better and find other guys outside of Chandler Jones that can ball for you, all of a sudden now, this is a dangerous Arizona Cardinals football team. Especially on the offensive side of the football, they're starting to get all the pieces necessary to make this this offense for Cliff Kingsbury run the way that it's supposed to run. And this is going to be really interesting to watch this air raid attack unfold with now all of the weaponry that Kyler Murray has at his disposal. What a trade for the Arizona Cardinals, and to think really all you gave up was a guy that you were going to trade anyway or release, one or the other, in David Johnson. I don't know if release was optional, because of how much money was owed to him and the dead cap that might have been left. But you didn't have plans for David Johnson. That was a throwaway piece. And you said, hey, you know what? Take this 4th rounder too. If that makes you happy, take this 4th round pick and David Johnson, who we weren't going to use anyway, and let us get one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in all of football. Thanks. And that is insane to me. Insane that you just gave up a second, and a 4th in next year's draft for the rights to get your hands on DeAndre Hopkins and still got a 4th round pick back this year. So hell of a job by Steve Keim and company in Arizona to pull this one off. And they've been pushing all the right buttons the last couple of years. Steve Keim was ridiculed for the drafting of Rosen and then turning around and drafting another quarterback last year in Kyler Murray and hiring a head coach in Steve Wilkson and firing him after 1 year and bringing in a guy that didn't have a winning record in college football. I told you that I loved the hire of Cliff Kingsbury. They were under a lot of flack, but I thought they had a successful season, year 1. There were some growing pains, as to be expected, but you saw promise from this team, and now you make moves like this one, and you feel like they've got this ship kind of steering in the right direction, and all of a sudden now, don't look now, but there's 7 teams that get into the playoffs in the NFC. I'm just saying, you don't necessarily go from, 5 or 6 wins, whatever the Cardinals had this year, and jump into the postseason, but stranger things have happened, man. When you got this kind of offensive firepower, year 2 of Kyler Murray, you expect him to be much more comfortable in that system with a lot more weaponry around him now. And they're going to fix this offensive line, you would think, with some of the draft capital and some of the moves they may make in free agency. Look out for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm just saying, and on the other side of this thing, man, what the hell is Bill O'Brien doing? But then again, we ask the same question every single year, and Bill O'Brien manages to make it to the playoffs. So we'll see what happens, but I just feel like the Arizona Cardinals won this trade, and we'll see if DeAndre Hopkins asks them to tear up his 3 years remaining on his deal and ask for new money in Arizona, and if they oblige or not. We'll find out, I guess, together. But as of right now, what a steal by the Arizona Cardinals in essentially day one of the NFL free agency period. Obviously, it hasn't actually begun yet, but the tampering period has begun, and it has begun with a bang. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. Leave it in the comment section. What do you think about this deal? What do you think about what Bill O'Brien has done to this Texans team? And conversely, what do you think about the Arizona Cardinals after this trade? What they gave up to get arguably the best receiver in all of football? Leave it all in the comment section. I can't wait to read them all. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Until next time, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. Plenty more great content, wall-to-wall coverage of NFL free agency. We're counting down the hours until I can scream, Happy New Year! It's almost here. Almost Happy New Year for all of you NFL football fans. Until then, you guys take care. And gals, have a good one.
T.